the standard pit is, so this is a method developed by the Institute for Tropical Soil Biology and Fertility.
Okay.
So it's called the TSBF method. And typically what you do is, let's see, are these fields you're going to be working in have crops in them? Or they probably will at some point, right?
Some, so yeah.
So let's work on a spot that has.
So we would
stuff.
trim this off first of all, or not?
Yeah.
So we could, I would just go with some, cut shears or something, or not, above ground.
I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, but yeah, in this situation where you have a lot of material, I would cut it off first.
All right, okay.
If you had litter on the soil, I would collect that as part of the sample.
Okay, all right, good
because
job.
These are the same critters that come in and out of the litter.
All right.
But in this case, I would cut this off. One thing you need to be concerned about is not to try to trample too much where you're going to work, and to kind of be just gentle and work quickly, because, like for example, earthworms, they hear our vibrations if we walk around, and they'll go down to escape.
Very good. All right, so it's 1 by 1, 1 foot square?
No, it's 25 centimeters.
25 centimeters, okay.
Yeah, so I tend to just mark it off. Eventually you get to know your shovel width.
Okay.
And it's nice if you already have something that's square.
No, we'll do this weekend, Mark, or Steve. What am I doing? Mark Van Horn, I'm in here.
Okay.
All right, so
25
centimeters by 25 centimeters, all right.
Yeah. So it's just an approximate marker. Right, I don't have clippers with me today, so we're just gonna pretend I did that. So yeah, normally I would come through and clip. You don't want to yank it out. You don't want to leave the roots.
Right.
And
okay.
one thing to avoid is it's really easy for the hole to get smaller.
Yeah.
So you have to keep making sure that you're the same size all the way down.
You see what he means, Katie? So don't taper it. You want it square down all the way. All right.
Okay, so now I'm just
Wow.
check my hole. So there's 25 and 25. So this one looks pretty good, and then I'm just going to check. I'm going to go to 20 today because I'm a little shy of 20. So I just kind of look in the middle of the hole. 20 is right here. So I need to go a little bit deeper. And in ag fields around here, we miss out on a lot of the complications that you get on like hillside farming systems. You don't have to deal with sloping lands and rocks and all that sort of stuff, or roots.
All right.
So this is much easier. Okay.
Very nice. All right.
So that's basically our hole, down to 20.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I'm probably a little bit tapered.
All right.
Just gonna clean it. I'm good.
I have not seen anything yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so the idea is that this would be in a burlap sack or whatever, right?
Okay.
Or plastic, woven plastic sack, right?
Yep.
And when you're done sampling, you would put a label on it and tie it up.
Okay.
Or at least fold it over so nothing can crawl out, right? Because things will crawl out of here if there's stuff in here. Not much. Most of it likes to stay in the soil, but.
All right.
And then you can then put that off in a shady spot until you're ready to process it.
Okay.
It's good to process it as soon as possible, and I would say a maximum, especially on a hot day, maximum of like 2 or 3 hours. If it's a little cooler out, probably go a little longer.
All right.
So you could come and collect a bunch of them, because it's pretty quick. So you could come and collect, say, 15 of them, and then go and process them, or all that you're going to do in the morning.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Go ahead.
Then obviously have some out. And so when we do our cafeteria tray,
you can already see some of the guys escaping. This one right here and this one right here.
Uh-oh. That one probably, that might have come, that probably came off the actual plant material, so it's probably not so microfun. But basically you need to do about 1 fistful or 2 fistfuls at a time, so you don't want to sample much bigger than that.
Okay.
For every time you sample, or every one that you process through. So look, there is a spider.
Ah.
So before doing anything, I would have a jar of alcohol right here.
Yep.
Just filled up maybe 1/3 of the way, and I would take my spider, and I would just plop them straight in there.
Okay.
Okay, let them go free. And then I would start going through and breaking up all these clods and aggregates. Even things like this big you need to break up because a lot of times these form around earthworms that are, or other organisms that are in sort of a,
How
make
much
a nest.
alcohol was supposed to be in the jar?
You could fill it about 1/3 full. And you could have some more on hand in case you need to, in case it gets full. So the first thing you usually do is just break it all up. And then it's really about just moving the soil around on the tray.
All right.
Back and forth a bunch of times and seeing what, that's why it's nice to have a white background because then you see the contrast and you can see what crawls.
Right,
because they're always going to try to run for shelter. You know, and we have 40 of these handfuls in there, so it's very possible we don't find anything in this one.
Yeah.
Although we did just find a spider. And I would usually spend about a minute or two, maybe 2 minutes on this minimum,
Okay.
just to make sure I'm not missing anything. This is where half the time when I say that I'm done and I'm about to toss it, I go to move it one last time and I see something crawl.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's about moving all of these big clods around and trying to really thin it out so that if there is something, you'll see it. There are some things that won't move as well, and you won't catch them all, but like if you see an earthworm cocoon, you know, it just looks like a little round sort of maybe like beige or yellow ball.
Okay.
They're soft. Find those. Okay, so this one's done.
All right. Okay.
I would then, assuming I don't want the soil for anything else, like I often use this for fertility analysis so I can correlate the two.
All right. All right.
But if I don't want it for anything else, I just toss it.
So this, yeah, I can.
So I'm going to go to the next one. And it's often you don't find anything, is they start crawling down because they want to get to the bottom where it's cold and dark and safe, right? Mm-hmm. So it's often you don't find anything. Especially in the first handfuls.
In those manuals or those that you sent me earlier, are there? I didn't remember this, but are there little diagnostics for what kinds of things to look for and what they are or not, or is that just we're going to have to learn that from?
To some extent, you're going to have to learn it, but you don't need to go to a really fine level of resolution. In some cases, just even going to the orders enough.
All right, yeah.
And it really depends on the interest of the student. If they want to try to key out things, you know, and get to like beetles are really hard, right? So to get to like families of the beetles, it's up to them.
Well, no.
But
all right.
It's still useful if you can just get it down to the level of.
No, I think that's good. Yeah. No, in fact, I have no idea what we're going to find at all. Don't lose your tweezers there. They're underneath the thing there. Okay, yeah, they're right there, yeah. So that's kind of a multi-purpose tweezer then. Sort of a fine tip then, it looks like.
Yeah.
All right.
And they sell these in Vet Med for like $2 each, so.
All right.
Usually when it's clumped like that, there's more in it.
Well, yeah, I'm
look,
good.
right there.
See, good eye.
Yeah.
So that's something, I would go ahead and pick it up.
Ah.
I can. Also, for really small things like that, you can use a paintbrush.
Ah, all right.
A really fine tip paintbrush. See, I can't get this guy. Just go like that.
All right.
And if you scratch it a little bit, it's okay. I mean, I'll try not to. But yeah, you can get a fine paintbrush and dip it in the alcohol.
Ah. And then it'll just
dab them, and
stick
stick to it, and then wash them off in the alcohol.
Very good, yeah.
I think that would be easier.
Well, it only for the small ones, yeah, certainly for the fine ants and stuff,
Yeah.
and ones like that, it makes a lot of sense. I didn't have a paintbrush with me today.
Are you surprised we're finding so few, so little, or
Well,
not?
he said in the first couple handfuls.
Oh, all right,
usually
all right, all
empty.
right.
I am surprised though that this soil with actively growing vegetation on it had and very little disturbance doesn't have more life in it.
All right, okay. Is this, all right,
You know, you may want to go and try and do
yeah,
10 of these
and just see.
and see if you find anything.
Yeah,
and if
no,
you don't, then maybe it's not the best
It may
Soil.
not,
best soil. I mean, you know, like for example,
Maybe-
I've done this on a lot of farms, or at least looking for earthworms where you find other stuff. On a lot of farms around here, and for example, Russell Ranch, just there's not a lot there.
well, let me ask you a hard, general, naive question. Is diversity of this scale of organisms, is this considered functionally a good attribute to have, greater diversity, or not?
I would say so, but I mean, you could then look at what you have too. If you have more spiders, that's probably a good thing. You know, whereas if your diversity is all pests,
Yeah, that's,
it's another thing. But
yeah.
you could get down into that level of like functional group as well. But I'd say overall diversity is probably a good thing and is an indicator of, you know, different.
I mean, for instance, before we leave today, we're going to meet with the postdoc that's with Howard Ferris, and you probably, I think they have. My understanding is they've come up with different guilds or different indicating communities of improved function, and I don't know if that's exactly the right way to say it. Does that kind of thing exist for this, or as long as you don't have a lot of pests, I suppose you're...
Yeah, you know, I've thought about applying the same type of thing that Howard does to this because we can divide them into different functional groups. You want to try a little bit?
Sure.
All right.
But I was looking at these
Oh.
marks
So
right
that's-
here.
That looks like
A root?
fungus or something. Huh? You know, 'cause there's
Eggs.
Eggs, yes, you can count those.
There was another one with that same imprint on it as well.
So you would go for that
Let's see.
stuff in there,
Yeah,
the gray
right
stuff. Holy smokes.
Well, that's like a fungus, but it looks like there were some eggs in there as
all
well.
right, all right.
So yeah, I would collect those.
I
These
have an
definitely
eye
look
for
like-
the small things.
Yeah, that's good. But what I'm surprised is that often before you even find the critters, you can see evidence of them. Especially earthworms, right? Because you
Yeah,
see their
no,
tunnels
you're
and
right, yeah.
aggregates, and I'm not seeing that here. And I'm
No, we're going to be all right on the worms. I know that is a...
you have some down
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Oh, if you have earthworms, you have other things because those are the most sensitive.
No, we have... No, in fact, it's...
So if you have earthworms, then this is definitely worth doing because. So yeah, I would go through. It's kind of a pain, and the eggs are like you can never identify what they belong to, but it is good to at least have a count on them. They'll just show up as eggs, and you won't be able to attribute it more than you have at least one organism there.
Here, Steve, do you want to say anything for your video for your other colleague in Cambodia? Now that I'm running this or not?
Well, I think, yeah, one thing that he may come across is that you're going to be on, you know, harder soils, much more compact, with lots of stones, and so they're not going to come out so clean. It's going to be a little harder to break apart the aggregates, but you could still do it. And yeah, the digging's just not going to be as clean, but you just need to do the best you can with the tools you have.
All right.
Other than that, yeah.
All right, okay.
And formal ones, just because they're going to decompose really quickly. But if you get to them quickly, here, and we have pretty low diversity of earthworms, they're a little easier to identify. You can just store them in alcohol. Even alcohol in the refrigerator is even better.
All right.
They last longer. But if you're going to do that, you need to get airtight, you know, containers to put them in, because you don't want the ethanol leaking in the fridge.
All right,
Because
okay.
it'll spark or something, right?
All right.
But that'll save you a lot of all the permits and hassles and all that sort of stuff.
Very good job. All right, yeah.
But I would keep them in a separate vial from the other critters, just because they do get sticky. Some of these species, and that's actually a way you can identify them, is when you stick them in alcohol, they excrete things, and they excrete sticky goos, and all their other things will stick to them. And yeah, so just to keep things clean, I would keep your earthworms apart from other critters.
Okay.
just going down to order columns. But if you go finer resolution, or like if you know something's a beetle and you know you have 3 different kinds of beetles and you just don't know what they are, you can start saying morphospecies. So you could say I have, you know, rather than just lumping them all in beetle, you say I have beetle species A, B, and C. And I, you know, based on my own, you know, it's intuitiveness that they're different.
Is this a fungus?
Or a nodule. I think it's a root nodule.
It didn't look like a root nodule that I usually see, that's why I was...
I don't know then. Just because it is red. Yeah, I don't know. Species level, or, you know, just saying like, oh yeah, there's 2 very different, obviously different beetles here. I mean, there's a little risk in that you're, you know, classifying different instars or different stages of their development.
I don't think
But that's also where you bring some of those samples to an entomologist and have them take a quick look at it.
All right. No, I think that's good, yeah.
So anytime I have a morpho species that I'm going to call it, I save a specimen of it to put it to the side.
All right.
Just to make sure that...
It's not the same species.
So here's a centipede. Looks like he's eating those eggs. So that's another good one. It's a predator. So you want predators in your soil, right? That would be kind of thing that Howard Ferris would suggest as indicator of a healthy soil, because predators tend to be longer lived. They're higher on the food web, and so, you know, in order to support one, in order to support, you know, 1 gram of predators, you need 10 or 100 grams of food, right?
That is so cool.
So you see, the soil does not look alive, but we found
you're right.
5 things so far.
Well, you're both patient here. That's good.
Oh, there's another worm.
All right. Here. All right.
Unfortunately, most of these earthworms are juveniles, and so you're not going to be able to ID them.
All right.
Only
no, but we will have some.
Yeah,
big
only if
ones.
it has the ring on it can you ID it.
All right. Well, but I suppose we'll have different sizes too.
And if you're interested, I do have, since my whole PhD was on earthworms around this area, I do have the taxonomic keys for earthworms. There's only about maybe 6 species you're going to encounter.
Wow. All right.
And they're all introduced.
All right.
Which I find is funny.
Yeah, it's one of the few, it's a very interesting case for invasive species. People don't seem to worry about them.
But that's...
Well, it's one of the invasive species.
Something you can do.
Just one more time for your other colleague there, right? The cleaning up the ethanol.
Yeah, well, I'll write it in the protocol. But yeah, so we need to, within 2 weeks of collecting the specimens, because there's so much dirt tends to get collected with them, we usually switch out the ethanol. So pour out the vial that we have and recollect all the critters and put them in a new fresh vial with ethanol, just so that they are preserved better.
Thank you. All right.